Hello, I'm Tiffany Cloud. Thank you for tuning in to WYLN TV 35's The Storm. Today is a special half-hour commercial-free episode, and I am so pleased to be joined by Emil Giordano, a Republican candidate for Pennsylvania Superior Court. Your Honor, thank you so much for joining me.
Good afternoon, Tiffany, and thank you for having me.
Well, I'm happy to have you. You are my first candidate for Pennsylvania Superior Court that I've ever interviewed, so I'm looking forward to this and learning all about the Pennsylvania Superior Court and why you're deciding to run for office.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it also.
Before we dive in and let the audience really get to know you and why you've decided to run, I thought I'd better start out by you and me together doing a bit of an education about what the Pennsylvania Superior Court actually is.
Certainly.
Yeah, because I think if we went down the street and asked 100 people about that versus maybe to the Supreme Court, not everybody would know. So I do know it's an appellate court.
Yes.
And I'm going to really hand it to you to give us the explanation.
The Superior Court is a mid-tier appellate court in Pennsylvania. If we think of the Pennsylvania court system as a pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid would be the magisterial district judges, and everyone knows in their community who their magisterial district judge is. And then at the county level, we have Court of Common Pleas judges, and every county has several. I'm from Northampton County. There are presently 8 sitting, and I've been a sitting judge there for 12 years. Now, above the Court of Common Pleas, there's 2 separate appellate courts. There's the Superior Court, where I'm running for office, and there's also the Commonwealth Court. And both of those courts hear different types of appeals from the Court of Common Pleas. At the top of the pyramid is the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Pennsylvania Superior Court basically hears appeals in family court matters, criminal court matters, and most civil matters.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Before we talk about why you are running for this, I want the audience just to get to know you, the man. I got to spend a little bit of time with you not long ago, and I was really intrigued to learn your family has a wonderful American dream story, if you could share some of that.
Well, my mom and dad came to this country in 1955. They came from Italy, and they met while they were in night school learning to speak English. My mom worked in a sewing machine factory, my dad worked in a shoe factory, and they were able to save some money, and they opened the pizza shop in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I lived that pizza shop. That's where I got my real education after school and on the weekends.
Yes.
I worked in that pizza shop after school in high school and in college. And when I was in law school, actually, I'd come home on the weekends and work there also. So I'm the first in my family to go to high school. And my brother and sister have done much better than me. I went on to law school. My sister went on to med school. And my brother went and got his MBA.
Oh, wonderful. Now, where did you decide to go to university and then on to law school?
Okay. I went to Bethlehem Catholic High School in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And
then I started at Penn State Allentown. And I spent two years there, and I did that so I could stay at home and save some money, and I'd still work at my family shop. And then after 2 years at Penn State Allentown, I went to Moravian College, where I graduated.
Okay.
And after Moravian, I went on to Villanova Law School.
Was there something, what was it, how did you go from helping out in the pizza shops to deciding I'm going to pursue a career in the law?
Well, I wanted to be a musician.
Oh.
And my dad told me there's no retirement plan for musicians. So that's how I ended up in the law. I always liked American government, and I always liked history. It was a natural play to go into law school, and it was a great decision. Since they didn't have any formal education, my parents were really pushed all of us hard to get an education, and while I didn't really like it at the time, it served me well.
It's worked out okay for you. Obviously, it looks like it's worked out. So after your graduation from law school, then what did you go on to do?
Well, I really wanted to get into a courtroom as quickly as possible, and I interviewed around the country looking for that perfect job that would get me in the courtroom right away, and I ended up in Binghamton, New York. And I had never been to Binghamton, and within a week of being there, I was in a courtroom doing summary cases. Within a month, I was doing jury trials, and by the time I left, I had done just basically everything short of a homicide case in Binghamton, and I stayed there just under 2 years.
Perfect, right out of school. Perfect.
And it was a great job and a great experience, and I really appreciated my time there. Very nice people in Binghamton. And then I wanted to move back home. I anticipated getting married, and I was looking for another job, and I went into civil practice. I went to work for the largest law firm at the time, Holland Taylor and Sorrentino, which was in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And they had very big clients like the Bethlehem Steel, Bethlehem Area School District, all the major insurance companies. But I spent a lot more time there in the library than a courtroom.
Sure.
And that wasn't really where I wanted to be. So after being there a year, I opened my own law office.
Oh, okay.
And I opened that office right next door to my dad's pizza shop.
Oh, that's convenient for lunch.
It was. It was the best lunch I had for a long time. And I was in private practice there for almost 17 years.
Oh, my goodness. And what kinds of, was it a full breadth of law? Was it family law? Did you specialize?
Well, at the beginning, I was doing a lot of personal injury work because I had done some as a lawyer at Holland Taylor for defense for insurance companies. So I was doing that for myself and other lawyers on the plaintiff side now. I was also started doing criminal defense work, representing criminals, and I was also a part-time public defender in Lehigh County and later Northampton County. As I was representing private criminal defendants, I got to meet a lot of police officers. And as I was meeting these police officers, all of a sudden I started representing them and when they were buying a home or their wills, and all of a sudden I became a police labor lawyer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I spent a couple years representing police unions, and then I was representing prison guard unions, and then all of a sudden municipalities started asking me to be their solicitor in other jurisdictions, so I started doing that. And I ended up representing Moore Township, the boroughs of Northampton, North Catasauqua, borough of Chapman, and then eventually all those municipalities hired me to be their general solicitor.
Okay.
So my practice evolved, and I was doing a lot of construction litigation. When I opened my practice, I didn't have one client to speak of. I went to college with Trunzo Construction, was my first real client that walked in the door, and from representing that company, I got to meet a lot of other contractors, and I started doing that type of work.
Well, so it makes sense that you've had such a scope and breadth of studying different areas of the law from the time you were in Binghamton all the way up through doing municipal work, representing unions, everything, ambulance chasing, all that jazz. What made you then decide, before what you're about to do, to decide to become a judge as you are now?
Well, as a private attorney, I really felt, having been a DA and public defender, having been a private criminal lawyer, personal injury cases, and I also did commercial law. I represented banks and lenders, and I did a lot of landlord-tenant work also. I wanted to take the next step, and I'd always been community-minded. So in 2003, I took the plunge, and I ran for judge in Northampton County, and I won that race. And it's been a great run for the last 12 years.
Yes.
As a judge, I've had an opportunity. We do everything in that county. So I've done everything, family law, I've done adoptions, custody, support, divorce cases, criminal law. I've done everything from basic speeding cases to homicide cases, including death penalty cases.
Wow.
Handled complex civil matters, complex commercial matters, and basically everything that comes into court we handle in our county. And I've been doing that for the last 12 years.
Is there a particular part, just curious, of the law that you most enjoy?
Well, you have to understand that most of the people we see at the trial court level are in distress. It's hard to enjoy watching. I had a case this morning where I had to sentence a young man who committed a violent attack on a Lehigh student. He attempted to kill her. He attempted to rape her.
Oh, boy.
I had no enjoyment at work today.
Sure.
When I'm dealing with custody and relocation cases, which take up a majority of our time, there is no joy there whatsoever. Adoptions, on the other hand,
I bet that's fulfilling.
are one of the really nice things that I get to do. And I get to do them about once a month.
Oh, nice.
And that's a really great experience. But I'm trying to think of opportunity. Some of my child custody cases are very contentious and they're very difficult. I had one case recently where the parties appeared before me 12 separate occasions.
Oh, my goodness.
And I coach basketball and I coach baseball. So I'm at coaching a basketball game. We're in a tournament. Between the games, I'm sitting at this table, and this young boy and his sister sit down. And I'm having a soda, and I'm actually looking at a pad trying to figure out who I'm playing the next game. And they said, "Hi, Judge." And I look up, and it's a boy and girls that had been before me 12 times before.
Wow.
And they were talking to me as if I was a family member. That was nice. That was nice to see them in that situation and to know that they felt like they could trust me enough to sit down and talk with me. But being a judge is tough work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not easy to make those decisions, and you have to have a certain mindset to be able to do that.
And just like home, no one's ever happy with what I do.
Right.
So,
well, I want to now get to, so you've been doing this, you said, since about 2003.
yes.
Now you've decided to throw your hat into the ring for Pennsylvania Superior Court. What made you, was there an event, was there something that occurred that made you say that's the next step?
Well, I feel that a Superior Court judge has to have been a real judge hearing cases before he can review the work of other judges. And I think my 18 years in the courtroom as a lawyer and 12 years as a judge certainly make me qualified to do that. I think it's very important. Number two, based on my experience in the courtroom and as an administrative judge, I've also been the administrative judge of the domestic relations sections and the orphans court.
Okay.
And a mentor to young lawyers. And this is where I get to answer your question. I've been a teacher at Moravian College. And I've had a great experience of 4 or 5 of my students having been my undergraduate students interning with me, going to law school, interning with me, and now they become lawyers and they're my law clerks.
Oh, that's rewarding.
And get the opportunity to see them practice in front of me.
Sure.
I just thought the natural step, as opposed to serving simply Northampton County, was to serve the entire Commonwealth. And that's...
You talked a bit about, I'm just jumping a little ahead,
Yeah, sure.
your campaign slogan is experience, values, and integrity. And you talked about experience a bit just now. So I just wanted to have you talk a bit about when you say values and integrity. You know, why you?
Well, I have real life experiences. I've been a baseball coach. I mean, believe me, being a baseball coach and a Little League coach is a lot tougher than being a judge.
Yeah.
And I've been a basketball coach, and I run our CYO board. Those type of life experiences make me uniquely qualified. They show they have values in the community. My mom and dad came from a hardworking background, and they instilled in me that hardworking ethnic or immigrant work status, right?
That ethic, yeah,
Yes,
that work ethic.
that
yeah.
work ethic. And what was the third thing you said?
Well,
I'm sorry.
no, integrity.
Yeah, integrity.
And integrity.
Well, I think the best model or best measure of that is when I ran for retention, over 80% of the lawyers, and that was in a blind survey in our county, approved of my retention.
Yeah, that's a good.
Now, you try to get 80% of lawyers to agree about anything.
Yeah, no joke. Really. Yeah, that's
And
quite a
they all-
testament to you.
And I try to treat everyone fairly in front of me. I try to treat everyone with respect.
Okay.
I think I have those values.
What are your concerns about perhaps what's happening now in the Pennsylvania Superior Court that, you know, makes you say, I want to be on that court?
Well, I think in the first instance, they're issuing too many memorandum opinions, and those are opinions that have no precedential value. I think the court has to take, and they are the busiest appellate court in the country.
In the entire country?
In the entire country.
Wow, that's something
the
that a lot of
Pennsylvania
people
Superior
don't know.
Court.
Okay.
And they do an excellent job. And it's run extremely well, extremely efficiently. 15 judges handle all the work in this state.
Oh my goodness.
Which is you're basically issuing an opinion a day. And that's a significant number of opinions for one judge to issue.
Okay.
I think they're well run. I think I would be a welcome addition based on my experiences. I think they have to issue less memorandum opinions.
Okay. Well, one of my questions was about opinions. When I was doing my research, not having interviewed someone running for this office before, I had come across an article from October of 2013, and the reporter was asking a question: why are there so many unpublished opinions coming out of the Pennsylvania Superior Court? And this reporter went on to talk about, I think it was like the last week of September, about 100 100 opinions, there were about 100 opinions, but only about 5 were published. And so me as a layman reading this, my mind naturally went to, is there a transparency issue?
Well, I think because of the workload and getting other judges to sign on to opinions, it becomes difficulty. I'm not familiar, and I'm not being critical of the way the Superior Court is run now, because I think they do a very good job with the resources they have. I think everything can improve.
Okay.
But this is the same issue. You're actually referring to memorandum opinions.
Okay.
This is one and the same issue we're talking about.
I see, okay. One of the things that I've noticed from a federal standpoint, and I'm curious as to whether this has filtered down at all to the Pennsylvania Superior Court, there seems to be a lot of legislating from the bench of late. That I know that folks like myself find a bit frustrating. Is that something that you are noticing as well?
Yes,
you are.
I will say to you, I will never legislate from the bench. And back home, I'm known as a common sense judge that always follows the law.
Okay.
All right. I'm not. If I wanted to make new law, I would run for the state house or state senate. That's not my intention. My intention is to ensure that the rule of law is followed, no matter who the parties are. And that's, our system of justice may not be perfect, but it's the best in the world, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because we follow the rule of law.
It's probably one of the reasons your parents probably came to this country is because of that Constitution of the United States, which has those 3 distinct executive, legislative, judicial branches.
Which is, in taking off on that just a little bit, and I think our country is perhaps relying too much on the judiciary. Our founding fathers never intended that all these tough issues be resolved in the courts. It seems to me that whenever there's an unpopular decision to be made, it always works its way into the courts.
Yes.
And the courts should not be
the final
voluntarily taking on these issues. There are times they can't help it. And those are truly justiciable issues. But I think the courts have expanded beyond what they were intended to, and I don't think that's a good thing.
I agree with you. I mean, the Constitution starts with "we the people," and that is what our founders intended. They did intend for the power to be in the hands of we the people.
Correct.
So it's nice to hear that.
Popularly elected legislatures.
Absolutely. Now, let's say you're elected. What would be your top priorities if elected?
Well, my top priority would be not to legislate from the bench and use common sense.
Okay.
I mean, and that's what I'm known for back home.
Okay.
Number 2 would to make sure that the rule of law is followed. Number 3, make sure that laws that are passed by the legislature are presumed to be valid.
Well, talk to me about that. What do you mean by that?
There has to be laws passed by our legislature and signed into law by our government are presumed to be valid. The court should not be looking for ways to overturn those laws. That is the province, and there are some situations it has to happen. But that is the province of the state legislature and the state house and the governor, not the courts.
Okay.
In my humble opinion.
It's interesting. When now you're running, I believe, unopposed in the primary, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then in the general election, you'll be facing
either someone from Philadelphia or from Pittsburgh.
Okay, which is going to be interesting because those 2 areas tend to vote heavily Democrat.
Yes.
You're running as a Republican.
Yes.
So not that you want to reveal the big game plan, but what are you doing to try to court, because you have to get votes from both sides of the aisle. What are you doing to get out there? What are you doing differently?
I'm working on getting hard-working, honest people to vote for me.
Okay.
And I believe my message and my personality lends itself well to hardworking middle-class Americans, and those are the voters I'm targeting. I have been all over the state.
That was my next question. I was curious where you've been so far.
I've been to Butler County. I'm heading to Venango County tomorrow. I've been to Allegheny, Westmoreland, Washington, Bradford, Pike, Susquehanna, Northumberland, Dauphin, Lancaster, Montgomery, Delaware.
Luzerne today.
Luzerne today.
Right.
And Berks. I mean, I'm like that Johnny Cash song. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. That's been my life.
You're really on the ground.
I
out
am.
And about.
No one will ever beat me in a campaign because of what I failed to do.
Oh, okay.
I guarantee you that. There is no stone I will leave unturned.
Okay.
And that's been the hallmark of my other campaigns also.
How has the I mean, I realize you have a primary first in Republicans, so perhaps capturing those strong D areas isn't going to be as much of a focus until you continue to work through this and we get closer to the general election. But what have you found thus far has been the general reception to your message in the Philadelphias and the Pittsburghs?
It's been fabulous.
Okay.
It's been I'm having a great time. I'm meeting a lot of people. Of course, I had to quit coaching this summer, and that was a tough decision for me to make. I was coaching basketball and I was going to coach baseball again this year. In fact, right up the block from here was Coryell Field, where I took my team to play several times. And that's been the hard part, being away from home. Mm-hmm. I have one son in college and I have one son who's in the 8th grade.
Oh.
So it's been hard.
Mm-hmm. But
the reception I've encountered has been fabulous.
Well,
and it makes those 6-hour car rides bearable.
Well, and the good news is because you've had to run for office in the past, I mean, granted, it hasn't been since 2003, so it's been a while, but, hopefully the family's fully recovered from the last time and, the wife's all ready to go. But, it's a lot of work on the family as well and a lot of stress on the family for anybody running for office.
It is, and especially now, being statewide, I'll be away some nights overnight, which never happened before in the county. I mean, when I ran countywide, I was always home. Mm-hmm. Now sometimes I'll leave for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll come back and pack my suitcase and unpack it and then get back to work.
What's been one of the sort of the biggest surprises just getting out and about and pounding the pavement? And
how nice people are. I mean,
oh, how refreshing to hear that.
I have to tell you, I had never been to Butler County before, and the people there were so nice, and people in Allegheny County, and people. I had never spent much time out in the western part of the state. Mm-hmm. I had been to Westmoreland a couple times because I have some good friends out there. But how nice people are in this state. Philadelphia, people are very nice. Mm-hmm. I mean, you hear about how nasty people are, but maybe it's just the crowds I'm running with.
Right. Well, that's good.
They have been very nice.
That's always encouraging. I'm glad to hear that, actually. Do you have people, though, I mean, when someone comes on the show and they're running for Congress or they're running for Senate, of course, when they're knocking on a door, that grandma answering or, grandpa answering or me answering or whoever's answering has their list of things. But I imagine it's a little different when you're running for PA Superior Court judge.
Yes.
Do you have, though, anybody who has been expressing concerns about our judicial system to you?
Well, most people are concerned. The concern is, what's my feeling about the Second Amendment? That is the number one.
Of course, in Pennsylvania, I imagine it would be.
I have always been in favor of the Second Amendment. I like all the constitutional amendments, right? And I follow them all. But I particularly like the Second Amendment. And that has been the number one issue.
Right, sure, a right to bear arms for all those out there. I'm sure most of the audience around this part anyway. We got a lot of hunters around here, and so most people know what the second is. So
that tends to be the biggest issue.
Well, and it's been under attack a lot from a federal standpoint, and so states are really needing to shore up their states' rights.
Local decisions by local people. That's what this country's about, in my humble opinion.
Well, all politics is local, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Now, I'm curious as to where people can go if they want to learn a bit more about you. Where do they go?
Well, I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
Emil Giordano. And don't get scared of the picture. And I have a website, Emil Giordano for Judge.
Okay.
You can go there. And I'll be filming some commercials.
Okay.
And the campaign won't be in full swing until after Labor Day.
Sure, which makes sense. I mean, again, you have a quiet primary, which is nice for you.
Yes, and those two places they can go right now.
And they can learn all about your background and your and also if they want to donate, for example.
Yes, there's a function there for that also.
Okay. We have a couple minutes left, and I really just want to give you an opportunity to tell the audience. I mean, you've outlined a lot about your experience and your background, but really when they go to the polls in November and they're thinking about who they're going to push the button for or pull the lever for, why are they going to pick Emil Giordano? Why should they feel confident doing that above anyone else running?
Because I'm a common sense judge and I have 30 years of real experience, okay? And I'm not going to repeat it again, but being a DA, public defender, private lawyer, And plus, I had 3 lawyers working for me and 6 people support staff, so I know what it's like to be a small business owner also. I have committed the last 12 years to being a judge, hearing everything from death penalty cases to adoptions. I was the administrative judge of our domestic relations section. I was the first judge in our county to receive the Crime Victims Award, and I was the first judge in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to require the certification of guardians to protect elders from theft by their guardians. Northampton County is the only county in the entire state that requires that.
That's interesting to me because I did a show not very long ago on the topic of elder abuse, which we have a massive, in this county, we have a massive, I mean, statewide,
Right,
we
yes.
have a massive, massive issue of elders being taken advantage of, often by caregivers.
In Northampton County, if you're appointed a guardian, if we appoint you, you have to be certified by the National Guardianship Association.
That's very interesting.
And it's the only place in the Commonwealth that does that.
I wonder why.
I think we're progressive in certain ways.
In that way,
We were very concerned about this. I have a fantastic president, Judge Stephen Barada, and he and I worked on this together, and we took a lot of hard work, and you know, change is never easy.
Right.
Change is always painful, and some people always oppose change. Right. But we were able to do that. And
well, no, I commend you all for that, because truly it is a significant issue in this state. We have a high elderly population in this state, and I was appalled when I did this show to learn of the statistics as related to abuse, physical, emotional, financial. I mean, it's really reprehensible. You brought something else up that you were given an award
by the Crime Victims Association.
Tell the audience about that.
You know, I like to be nice to people, and I was surprised as anyone when I got the award. But if you're a victim of a crime in my courtroom, obviously you have an opportunity to talk, and I often permit them to stay afterwards and ask questions about if they want to know what's actually going to happen, how they're going to get their restitution paid. I have met with crime victims afterwards and allow that to occur with the DA and defense counsel present. And I think it's important to allow the victim
an opportunity
to be heard, which is provided for by law. But afterwards, if they have questions, to actually answer those questions or attempt to answer them. And sometimes I don't have all the answers, and I have to go out and get them for them. Those are the types of things I think make me a good candidate.
Okay, we have about a minute left to go, and I just want to ask you, what's next? What are you going to be doing? What are you going to be doing next? What are you going to be doing to get out there?
Well, I'm going to get in the car, and I'm traveling to Venango County tomorrow, and I'm going to go visit some people up there. I'm going to a dinner, and I'm driving to Washington County and going to a fair, and then I'm going to Allegheny County.
You go to a lot of fairs, when you're running for office. Get ready to put on the campaign 20.
Well, I put on the 20 already. I mean, but one thing good about being a Superior Court judge, you get to wear your robe more often.
It hides all of that.
Yes.
And black is slimming, really.
Yes.
Black is slimming.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, no, thank you for coming.
It was really my pleasure.
Oh, well, no, happy to have you. And, Emil, Your Honor, the judge, I really wish you the best of luck in the upcoming election, and I know that the audience out there will look all for your information, which we have up on our screen. And folks, remember, when you look around and you don't like what you see, don't complain about it. You have the power to vote. You have the power to do something about it. Thank you so much for watching.